Welcome to Me Financial, the podcast designed to inspire your financial life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am Michelle Moses, your host. I am a certified financial planner, a realtor, and a former e-commerce store owner. And today I have Ann Lester on the show, and we are going to be talking about her book. Ann spent 20 years as head of retirement solutions for JP Morgan, and she is the author of Your Best Financial Life. Save smart now for the future you want, a book to help younger savers find long-term saving success by overcoming their behavioral biases. Ann is also a media commentator with coverage from the likes of Bloomberg, Barron's, CNBC, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. And Barron's even featured Ann on their cover for her outstanding career. Welcome, and thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, well, obviously you have a lot of financial experience, and so I'm very interested. What holes did you see in the marketplace? Because we all know, I mean, you could go to the self-help section and there are a million self-help financial books. What were the holes that you were seeing that then inspired you to write this book?
Well, I guess on the one hand, I felt like none of them ever were talking to me. And, by me, I don't mean, Ann Lester, cover of Barron's, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like the kid who, kept maxing out a credit card and didn't know how to stop making mistakes. I also think that the way that we often convey financial information, even though we're, and I'm talking about we in the financial services industry, think that we're, being relatable and talking at the right level for people, it's still full of jargon. And
oh my gosh,
the second I think a reader doesn't understand something, they immediately feel small and stupid. Mm-hmm. And that's the worst place in the world to try to make financial decisions from. I do think in the last couple of years, there have been more books coming out sort of by peers, right? So, you've had a raft of books in the last sort of 3 to 4 years by sort of peer-to-peer kind of things. And you're seeing a lot of that content on social media. And I think a lot of that stuff is great too, because I think it's very relatable for the audience. But I guess I'm trying to do something a little bit different, which is be relatable, be human, acknowledge that people struggle, not sound like I'm lecturing people, and show that it's possible to overcome some of these mistakes, but also do it with the background of having worked in this industry for almost 30 years. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I love that you're being transparent, that you've worked in the industry, and even though, you go to work and you're learning all of these things, that the spending is a completely, and the saving, I guess, where I call the tire meets the road with like the budget, that was hard for you. And so you wish you wish that a book like this would have been there for you at that age.
Absolutely. And for me, the really key, like the thing that unlocked all of this for me was understanding that it wasn't my fault I was spending all this money. Like, of course, on some level, it was my fault because I was doing it. But I didn't understand that and it's easier for me to say now, this many decades on, that I just have poor impulse control. Like I just do with money and food. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have poor impulse control anywhere else in my life, but for those two things I do. And accepting that and understanding that and then building guardrails around myself have really been transformational. And I learned a lot of that as I was building financial products, right? Target date funds to help other people save. But it also helped me understand that I could forgive myself for those mistakes, that I didn't have to keep putting myself into the same place to try to make a better decision. I'll put temptation in front of me and then I'll make the right decision. And, that's right. Kind of silly, right?
Well, and don't you think that as a society that we think that that's what's going to happen? What I view it as just a visual is that you have to come down and you just need to accept where you are and what you are. Yep. And that, I have poor impulse control around these two items. And that is just the hand that I'm dealt. And there's just such a relief in that, right? Of just saying that. And it's not being a victim. It's just that this is just the hand that I was dealt. This is how I am. And so what are some small steps that I can take to help me with this? Because it's obviously going to be a lifetime of getting better at it, right? Is that kind of the thinking?
100%. And I think I hope the comfort my readers feel hearing, yeah, it's okay. Like we got this, right?
Yeah, nobody's perfect. And it's like,
Absolutely.
you get these emails or, and even on social, you see everywhere, I made this much and I'm doing this and I overcame this. Whereas I think what needs to happen and what people really relate to and love is when people are just being human and they are realizing, like I got an email from a coach and she was having a hard time and was talking about all this stuff that she went through with this relationship and how she had PTSD from it. And she was really surprised at the response. And I'm like, yes, because we are all flawed. We are all just trying to do better. And I think anytime you can be told like, it's okay. I mean, you don't want to sit there and wallow in it because then you don't feel good. But at the same time, just accept how you are and then just kind of go from there. And it's just such a freer way to live, right? Than trying to like power through and be something different all the time.
Yeah, this is not something you can grit through or bootstrap through, I don't think. Absolutely.
No. And it's a lot like food. I always talk about food and money like the same. They're the same.
Yep.
Yeah, they're the
Yep.
same. Yeah, I mean, it really is. It all applies so much in the same thing. So anyway, I really applaud you for the approach that you're taking to this because I think that
thank
we
you
need
so much.
Yeah, I just think that we need more of it, especially online, when you're getting everybody's A-roll. That just not everything is perfect. So, okay, well, let's kind of go into the book. I thought it was really interesting that you had like the different money types. Can we talk a little bit about like figuring that out and what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, they're the classic two biggies, right, are spending and savers. So you're a spender, you're a saver. I actually try to break that down a little more, and this may not surprise anyone, more spenders than there are savers in the world. And
because it's fun to spend.
Well, and
let's all admit that.
There's so many different ways to spend, right? And, this isn't a super scientific thing, right? I didn't do decades of research into your brain on money, but I have found that these resonate with people, and it's really trying to align the way people are spending with some common behaviors. So one I talk about is the oversubscriber, right? And this is, I think, has always been true, right, ever since the first person came up with a magazine. But it's so much easier now to do oversubscribing because so much of it is invisible to us, right? I actually literally just went through my phone like last week and went, whoa, I'm still paying for that? Like, I thought I canceled that 2 years ago. Not really. So these things sneak up on us. And it's a hard thing to acknowledge sometimes that it seemed like a good idea at the time, and then it kind of fades. Like I didn't need two robocall killers on my phone. I was paying for two of them. I don't know why, but I set them both up, and there they were charging me, $4 a month or whatever. Not huge amounts of money, but
yeah, but it all adds up. Yeah,
it does add up, and so. Some of the tricks that I have for managing that is, and some of them are easier than others, right? One is just make an appointment with yourself once a year to do a cleanse. You look through your statements on your credit card, you look through your phone, and, if you have an Apple phone, at least you can go see those subscriptions and apps. And, it's pretty easy to go, whoa, why am I doing that?
Well, and I liked how you said at the beginning of that one was that it was a woman that you had said was the example, and that she lived with roommates and she saved money and had a job and, all of these things. But the oversubscriber was the part that was kind of leaking the money. So it was like she was very responsible for 75% of it, but just this little one. And I think just this little part, I should say, of her life. And that's what I think is so interesting is that you can do so well in different parts and make all these decisions. And let's be real. I mean, the oversubscribe, we're not talking about like huge, binge shopping or anything, but these are just like little things that you can do, right? To save some money every month.
It's the $100 or $200 a month, right? That, it's easy for us to say this. It's so hard if you're that 25-year-old to realize that actually that will make an enormous difference in your life, right? I have a little example somewhere in the book about how much your takeout lunch is costing you, right? And I don't want to sound like a preachy boomer, but like, brown bagging it occasionally is a great way to make sure you hit your savings goals.
Yeah.
And, so it is that $100 a month that is actually going to make a big difference. Just back to the food analogy, like it's that 100 calories a day that makes you put on however many pounds it is a year, 7 pounds or something. I mean, like it's really
it's the
small.
same thing. Yeah, it really is.
And one of the tricks, in addition to making an appointment with yourself, which is, kind of like you got to do it, right? That's a little hard. A hack that I have in my book about subscriptions, and I actually do this myself. And I will just say with the massive caveat, do not get an extra credit card for this purpose. But if you happen to have more than one, if you sign up for anything, make sure you use the card with the closest subscription date, because it will tell you that your card has expired and you have to renew it. And that is a very useful time to stop and say, why the heck am I subscribing to this thing anyway?
Right.
Do I really need it?
Right. And I do one of the hacks that you have in there too, where I subscribe to like Disney Plus for a few months. And then I'm like, okay, everybody, we're going to end Disney Plus and now we're going to go over to, Hulu and, like we switch, we don't do them all at once. We do one at a time. And that is one of the hacks that you have in your book too. And I tell people that and they're like, oh, that's such a good idea. And I'm like, really? I'm just cheap. Like I don't want to pay for all of them at the same. I can't watch that much TV.
Well, and it does also speak to the way we watch TV now, right? Which is that you can like watch a season of something. So I'm watching something now on Apple TV and I'm going to finish it and I'm going to turn it off till the next season's released. Like that's okay, right? That's really okay. If they're going to make it that easy and have such low barriers to jumping in and jumping out, then we should be taking advantage of that, right? Yeah. It's a great way to save some money.
Yeah. Absolutely. Although they'll probably listen to this and be like, oh, now we need to release.
I don't think so, because they're all, I think about it from the company's perspective, but of course they want everybody to sign up for everything and stay on it all the time. But like, would they rather have you do zero, or would they rather have you jumping in for 4 months, watching the show you want and jumping back out?
And knowing that people will forget. So, and another hack that I have too is checking the credit card offers, because a lot of times you can subscribe to, Paramount Plus and get 3 months for free. And so then I'll put a little thing on my calendar that I need to cancel it after the first, or I'll just watch what I need to watch and then cancel it right away. I don't care. But there are a lot of credit card offers on like Chase and American Express that you can activate on your card and then you'll get it for free.
And I think the trick there that you say is actually figure out a way to make sure you prompt yourself to step off, whether it's just knowing, I just want to watch this one show. That's all I want to watch. I'm going to watch it this weekend or this month, and then I'm done. Or put a calendar reminder. And I just did that the other day. I signed up for something and I was like, I don't know if I really want this. I want to check it out. And I used it twice and thought, nah, don't want it. And I had the little flag in my calendar saying, remember to unsubscribe from this. And I did. So,
and that's why they have the free trials and all that. But you got to put it on your phone or your calendar or something. So, anyway, what are some of the other money types? I think we are both, maybe we were part of the oversubscriber crowd. I talk a bit about splurgers, and I suppose if I put myself in a camp, that would be the splurger, and maybe I do that with food too. But it's like you're really, really good, you're buttoned up, you got this one thing, and then you go boom and bust out and like overspend. And I think that is. Are we talking
habit.
Like a trip or just clothes? Like a trip is one thing where it's thousands of dollars, or could it just be like dinner?
Well, I think everybody's got, like, this is not one size fits all, right? It's like, can you observe patterns of behavior that you fall into? Whether it's saying, I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to go out, I'm going to be super careful. And then when somebody says, oh, do you want to go out? You just totally bust loose and spend 3 times as much as you meant to.
Like, just like a diet. Okay.
Just like a diet, right? And I think the splurger, where you might get into trouble is, and I've learned not to go into clothing stores without lists. Like, I need a new pair of jeans. I can't buy them online. I'm going to go try on a pair of jeans. And then there are 3 cute things in the store and you buy all 3 cute things because they fit and they look good. And like, why not? Right. And so it's the splurging, I think, is you start with a thing that is a legitimate plan to maybe budgeted for expense. And then you slide into more. My husband once said the most expensive words in the English language were while we're at it. And we were renovating.
That's what I was going to say. When you're doing a house, that's exactly where it can.
Right. Yeah, you just go crazy. And it's so hard to understand where you just have to stop and say no. And it's super easy to do. It's super easy to do.
Well, and I think it's hard. I was actually, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple of weeks. I saw somebody online talking about what social media and just movies in general and how, and it started, like, let's take Sex and the City, and how much luxury and living this luxurious life has become the norm, even if you're poor. And that even if you don't have money, you're supposed to be driving a certain car and have these sunglasses. And that, Carrie Bradshaw in that series was supposed to be poor, but then she's wearing all these gorgeous outfits and designer, and she's living in an apartment by herself. And that we think that we have this vision of what life is just supposed to be like, and that social media and all of these movies have just really done us a disservice because we are so out of alignment with what it truly takes to do that. And have that, and we all are trying to attain this like perfect life, in that we aren't even satisfied, with other things. So I think the splurger would kind of go into that too.
Absolutely, and that's a big concept in my book, and I'm sure you talk about it with your clients too, which is maybe not in these words, right? There's something called the hedonic treadmill, right, which is basically consumption creep, and the hedonic treadmill. Hedonism, right? Like seeking pleasure, right? We all seek pleasure, but you get used to it. So, you get a raise, you think, great, I can afford a new car, you buy the new car, and then 2 or 3 months later, you take the new car for granted, and it doesn't make you happy anymore. Like, it didn't change your life, right? Now, there are some things that are truly life altering, like if you're in a dangerous neighborhood and you move to a safe neighborhood, right? Or if you're in a really sketchy place where the power keeps cutting out, like absolutely there's a threshold of like that you will stay happy above. But once you hit a pretty, I'd say, modest level of comfort, these things stop making us happy. Anybody who's ever gotten a promotion at work who just thought, oh, if only I got that promotion, I would love my job. And yeah, guess what? Your job is still your job, right? Even after the promotion. And so I think one of the trickiest things, and I think maybe splurgers are really prone to this, is linking, right, that purchase with the emotional rush of the satisfaction, right, the happiness, the attainment of this thing that maybe I would say you ought to spend some time thinking about, is it really what's going to make you happy, or is it just kind of fixing some other thing, So I think that hedonic treadmill is a really scary thing. And that's another thing I talk about in my book. Like, if you're not aware of that as a concept, you just slide right onto it along with everybody else around you because everybody's doing it, right? Oh, I can afford a bigger place. Oh, I can afford nicer vacations. And you keep creeping up and up and up and up. And you do a couple of things, right? One is you're spending a lot of money. 2, you're anchoring your lifestyle at a pretty high level, which is going to require even more saving to replicate once you retire, right? So it's a very dangerous habit to get into, to save, not to save more as your income goes up, because you're just always chasing more and more and more, and it'll never be satisfying.
Right. And when you buy the bigger car or the more expensive car, the oil changes are more expensive. The tires are more expensive, stuff like that you just really need to get real about. And the insurance, you get a new car, the insurance is more expensive. And sometimes it pays to just be cheap in some areas so that you can spend in others. And I think that we as a society, I'm just speaking to Americans in general, I guess, but we think that financial freedom means I can just go spend whatever I want, whenever I want it, and do whatever I want. And I really think that we need to redefine financial freedom as being more feeling free in yourself, that you are grounded in the decisions that you're making, that they're right for you. Do you agree with that? Like, I think this term financial freedom has just gone off the rails, and we need to bring it back to your heart and what you feel good in life about.
I agree with you. And I actually have kind of stopped using that phrase, even though it's kind of catchy and buzzy. I like to think about financial security.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about aligning how you're spending your money with your values is really important. We don't pause enough and think about that. And as I'm talking to especially younger people about how to save money, it's like, I'm not trying to latte shame you, right? I'm not saying don't go to Starbucks every morning and get that latte. I'm asking you to think about, not to sound all Marie Kondo, right? But like, is that actually giving you joy? Is that a meaningful part of your day? I was having this conversation with somebody specifically, and they were like, oh my gosh, that first cup of coffee in the morning, I go to the same place every day. The barista knows my name. I don't even have to tell them what I want. It's just like makes my whole day. Then yes, please go keep having that experience, because it's clearly the touchstone for you having a good day. maybe don't go back in the afternoon for the second one.
Yeah.
Maybe brown bag twice a week, right? Maybe so anchor the way you're making, I'm going to say, non-discretionary spending decisions, right? Like we will all live without a latte, right? You can make yourself a cup of 50-cent Keurig, or you can find coffee for a lot less than that fancy coffee drink, but
are you really going on and on about whatever your purchase is and feeling it? Yeah, that it adds to your life. And it takes practice.
Or is it just a habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does take practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think it takes a lot of practice. But I think if you can just, in that instant, and I can talk about some of these other hacks, right? Like, can you make yourself pause just for a second before you click buy, before you pull the trigger on whatever decision you're making? Because that pause is what lets a little bit of daylight kind of get between you and the impulse that your sort of fast brain is driving you towards, and gets that rational part of your brain in just a second to say, whoa, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, I thought we said we weren't doing that today,
Right.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to eat that. Again, it's with me, it's food.
Or leave it in your cart and then sleep on it.
Yes.
And if you can't stop thinking about it the next day, then yes, I mean, maybe buy that. But if I forget about it, then I'm like, oh, I didn't really want it. I was just bored.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. That is a great tip.
Yeah. Okay. So how many archetypes are there? Or is it money types? How many money types were there in the book?
Off the top of my head, I think there's 7.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So it's not just spender and saver. And that's what I wanted to point that out. I think that's a good thing.
I call them crypto bros, right? Cryptonauts. And I did some focus groups around some survey work that I did a couple of years ago. And they tended to be overwhelmingly male. They tended to be super, super, super geeky about finances and following all kinds of stuff online. And they were the people that were doing the GameStop stuff and the cryptocurrency trading and I think it's the same personality type that really geeks out about like fantasy football. They're just not interested in football, and so they do it with money. But it's like mastering the minutia of all these little tiny facts and wanting to be on the inside and having an idea. And it's really dangerous, really dangerous how easy it is to get sucked into, again, making money decisions for reasons that fundamentally are unrelated to like building sustainable wealth and just trying to get a quick buck or win.
It sounds like something that you're deriving your self-esteem from rather than just having self-esteem. And that is very dangerous because you're just not going to get it right all the time, especially with money. I mean, you're just...
odds are if you're doing fast trading, that statistically, you're overwhelmingly more likely to get it wrong than right.
Yeah. And I think that's one of my tenets, honestly, with money. And when you're learning, you've got to have some grace for yourself because you are going to mess up. I just put in quotes, mess up. Just because you're just learning what's in alignment with yourself and what you feel good about. And when you start wanting to know everything and you're going to be in the know, like not everybody can be in the know like that. Your money is all about figuring out what's right for you and what makes your heart sing. And so you got to be going from that rather than, it sounds like they're more like the gambling, like, oh, I feel good if I won,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's the same geekiness. One of my cousins he's Canadian. He's a professional money manager in Canada, and he's a super deep baseball geek. And I'm like, yeah, the brain, it's the same guy, right? That really wants to know every single statistic and like understand how it all fits together. But he spends his life doing that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to switch gears a little bit, just because there's a couple of things in the book that I definitely want to get to. So, what are ways? So one of the things in there are, what are some ways you can hack your brain to make savings easier?
So I think we touched on one of them, but the first one is automate. Make it automatic. Have the money. Make sure the money doesn't go into your pocket, basically. And I am somebody whose money literally burns a hole in my pocket. The second I have it, I'm like, oh, goody, what can I do with it? And I learned I have to put it somewhere that I can't see and I can't get to very easily. And then it like disappears and I don't think about it. Mm-hmm. So it's setting up a separate high yield savings account for your emergency fund, right? But have that deducted automatically from your paycheck.
Which is very easy. Yeah. Well, and if it's automatic, then you know that you're going to get an overdraft fee if you overspend, or, it's going to take that extra step to stop it. So that makes sense.
Well, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? Mm-hmm. And in my view, having that sitting on the home screen of your normal bank account where you can see all the balances is like, maybe that's not the right place for it because it's always sitting there. And at least if you're like me, it's always going, hey, you really could afford that thing, right? That's for emergencies, right? Not for like, whoa, I really saw that nice pair of shoes that I want to get. Like, that's not what that's for.
Well, and that's why I like to assign things for my money. And that's why I like to do a budget, is because then I assign things to the money. And there is nothing that gets you from, hey, I just made a ton of money, to let me assign this to, redoing my house and savings and all of that, to, oh, I'm poor again in 5 minutes. I mean, honestly, it takes 5 minutes. And then you're like, oh, okay, my mindset totally changed and I need to go make some more money.
I've already spent that.
Yeah. Even though you haven't spent it. Or
certainly I know I have a plan for it.
Yeah,
right?
You have a plan for it. Okay, so what are some other ways that we could make savings easier?
So, and then the second one that I talked about that I already mentioned is, how do you combat consumption creep? Like if you're just starting out, typical advice that I would give somebody is you long-term need to be thinking about saving 15 to 20% of all the money you earn. And that will be for retirement. That will be for your down payment. That will be for your, like that number covers like the things that you need to have saved money for in life. Big ticket items, right? Buying a new car, right? You can put all that under that umbrella. If you're just starting out, I don't think it's unreal to say that you probably will struggle to do that, just because if you've got student loans, if you're living in an expensive city, even if you've got 4 roommates, like it's just going to be rough to say, sure, I'll just take 15 or 20%, right? Yeah. You can't do it, right? I think that's unrealistic. So,
and when you get out of college, I mean, it's just shocking. I mean, you just don't realize how much it costs to live. I just remember talking to my girlfriend and being like, God, I thought I made so much money and it just goes, and all of this stuff. Well, and you're just shocked.
You don't take it home. Like you think, oh, I have this number. And it's like, wait a minute, the federal government, state government, social security, health insurance is just gone.
Yeah,
right?
you
like
just do not realize. And so I think for a couple years, you're kind of living in shock and like just trying to figure out how to make your life work with the money that you're making.
Exactly. So you spend a little bit of time learning how you have to live within your means. And if you're like, certainly me and many people, you make a few boo-boos along the way. Maybe you run up some credit card debt, right? And you're like, oh, can't do that. Maybe you do buy now, pay later. And it's like, oh, can't do that. So you learn a few things. And then you start, as you work for a few years, most people, not everybody, most people start getting raises because you become more valuable to your employer. And this is the trick that lets you start saving appropriate amounts. It's not original to me. It's called Save More Tomorrow. And it's relatively painless to promise yourself that when I get my tax refund, I am going to save half of it. When I get my raise, I am going to bump up my savings rate for at least half of that. I get to live a slightly nicer life. I get to have a few things I can't afford right now. So you feel better about that. And you start pushing your savings rate up from maybe 0 or 1% or 3% to 5% to 7% to 10%. And in 5 or 10 years, you will be saving that 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
But it's so painful to deprive yourself of stuff you want right now. And it's relatively easy to make a commitment to yourself. You can even automate that commitment in some financial institutions. And again, if you have that coincide with when you have a little more money, you don't even notice you're saving more.
Right.
So I think
as
magic.
you're getting raises or you get bonuses or anything like that, or people come into money in different ways, right? And that is a good question that I get a lot is, what should I do with this? And my answer is always, you should do everything. You should save some of it. You should spend some of it. You should then also put some away for like maybe an emergency fund or a new car or something that's more of a midterm goal, or you might want to give some of it away too. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but I like to help the animals. So I'm going to give $25 to the animals. And so do it all so that you are getting the essence of what you want, because we're always dreaming like so big of like, oh, if I could just support the art museum and, like all those things and do all this. But if you're doing it on a small level, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm doing it. I'm not doing it huge. But again, it's just those small little tiny steps, like, all making those little habits. And I think that's what is most common of people that are financially successful is that they do it all, and they do it all as they're going.
I think that's a terrific point. And I talk about the importance of starting to save, even if it's only 1%, or, 10 or 20 bucks a week or whatever that number is for you, because it actually does add up and you start feeling better about yourself. And then you flip the script in your own head from, I can't do this to, hey, I'm actually doing this. Wait.
Right.
And then it starts getting a little bit fun, right? And then you're just like, whoa, I am this other person. And I think I am a saver. I am somebody who invests in their future. I am someone who can afford to give a little bit to the causes I believe in. I don't just have to sit here and complain about how I don't like my life, right? So it's a very empowering thing to start doing.
Yeah, you're flipping the script from being a victim to actually, taking control of your life. Yeah. Yeah,
it can start in the tiniest of steps.
Yeah. Okay. And so then the other question that I have about your book is, what are 3 ways to determine if that luxury item is worth the splurge?
Oh, I think we touched on a couple of them.
Did we already? We're already covering all this. We're talking for...
It's like, make a list. If you don't think you need it before you see it, you probably don't need it. You just don't. Like,
I've heard that from people. Like, they go, I don't need anything. If I go to the mall, then I think I need things, but I don't. They're like, if I stay away from the mall, then I don't need anything.
Well, advertisers and marketing people have spent, decades and decades and decades understanding the way our brains respond to like stimulus, and the internet is a bad thing. Social media is a bad thing, right? We get bombarded with, very seductive images that then we really think we need XYZ. And I think your put it in the shopping cart and think about it is a great one. If it's not on your list, don't buy it, right? I think that's particularly important. Grocery store, food, but in anything, right? If I go into this one clothing store I'm thinking of and need a pair of jeans, like I walk in and say, I'm only looking at jeans. Please don't show me anything else. I will not buy anything else. I'm not going to try anything on.
Okay.
Every once in a while I slip up, I buy it. But
so you're saying that luxury basically changes based upon where you're, because I'm thinking like boats or I don't know. So it could be luxury jeans and that you're paying a lot for and that you're having to budget for. So make sure that when you go in there that it's really what you want and that you're in love with them.
And that you can actually afford it. And okay, the jeans are a very finite thing, but let's just think it's a really attractive, like I'll keep it small, right? It's a really pretty dress or a suit jacket, right? Are you going to have to dry clean that thing? Because then your cost just went up, right? Like how are you going to have to take care of it, right? Your expensive car versus the less expensive car, right? Servicing that sucker is going to cost 3 times as much over the 10 years that I hope you're going to own that car, or 15 years if you're me, because I'm cheap and I drive until they throw a rod. But like, how do you think about not just the acquisition price? You mentioned boats, right? Boats are notorious.
Yes, money pits.
Money pits.
Yes. Okay.
Money pits.
Okay. So really it's about being conscious. Being conscious and trying to be aware. And I've said that too, it really is. It's just trying to be aware of your life and where you're spending and caring. Because I think sometimes people say, no, I don't care. I don't care that I have, you do. They're on a level you actually do, and you're kind of lying to yourself.
Well, and something else, I actually didn't put this in the book. I wish I had, it just came to me, is, play the movie that shows you how you're going to be using that luxury item and in what sort of way. And then ask yourself if that's real or a fantasy.
Is that really how you operate your life?
Is that really your life? Is this really your day-to-day life? How will it actually, I keep looking at a vacation property in a ski town, and I keep fantasizing that, someday we'll have the money and someday, and it's literally never going to happen. And I enjoy fantasizing about it and like looking at the real estate ads. It's very much not going to happen also because my husband hates the mountains and hates skiing. So not going to happen, but
not going to happen.
But as I find myself kind of getting sucked into this like fantasy, I'm like, okay, really, how many weeks a year do you think you'd actually be there? Do you really want to Airbnb it out so somebody's using it? Like, no, I don't want it. Okay, then it's a fantasy. I'll leave it in my fantasy bucket, and I'll still enjoy like looking at houses. But if I want to go skiing for a week, let me go rent something and go skiing for a week and then say goodbye, right? I don't need.
Yeah. I
don't need a vacation property.
Right, you don't need the vacation
like,
once you start to think about the reality of it. And I do this with clothes. I buy like these going out clothes in heels, and I wear flat. Like I hate wearing heels. I mean, I'll wear wedges or, but on the everyday, I want to be comfortable and I want to be warm. I hate being cold. And I buy these clothes, and I have just started in the last couple years having to talk myself into, no, just buy the everyday, because it's like, I want to look fancy or I want to look good or, and then I never wear them. And then I'm stuck wearing my workout clothes with a sweatshirt because that's the only other thing that I'll spend money on. And so I don't want to buy just the normal clothes that I look boring, quote unquote, boring in.
I think it's a really helpful trick, right? Play the movie and then ask yourself, is this real? Like if you get invited to a fancy party and you really don't have anything in your closet and it's an important thing for you, okay, fine.
But no, I don't get invited to fancy parties. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. My son's going to get married in a year and a half. Like I'm going to want a nice outfit for that. So I know that's coming, but I'll wait a little while. Maybe something in my closet will fit again and I'll wear that instead. But it's like, how do you, again, it's the pause button. How do you find the way that works for you to hit the pause button? Put it in the shopping cart, don't click. Make yourself wait a night. Check your list. Is it on your list? No. Do you have a long-term fantasy list, right? If it isn't even on that, you really don't need it.
Right. Okay. Well, these are all great tips. I have really enjoyed talking to you and learning about your book, and I think these would apply to any age. I mean, honestly, if you have kids and you're wanting to teach them about money, or if you're just, feeling out of control about money, then I think this sounds like a great book. So thank you so much thanks for being on. I have really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm glad to know that a lot of what we're talking about might be becoming more mainstream, that if you have the same outlook that I, and the ideas that I have had, that it does give me hope, because I don't want people to walk around with a low self-esteem about this stuff. So
absolutely. It's not necessary. We just have to acknowledge that there's these poles outside of us, and we just have to recognize them. And that makes it so much easier just to understand what's going on. To me, that's a huge key. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. And you guys, we're going to have the link to Your Best Financial Life in the show notes, and Anne's Instagram handle and all of the contact information that you need. And let us know if you have any questions. And thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a great day.